This is episode 64 with Tara and Britt of Elevate the Globe. Every ounce of your being is made up of molecules of energy vibrating at different frequencies that determine your experience here on planet Earth.
This podcast's intention is to inspire you to elevate the vibration of your energy for yourself and for all of us. This is The Elevator.
Hop on in and ride into the ethers with Britt and Tara of Elevate the Globe.
A map can really give you hope when you seem to be lost, right? So it can give you confidence and comfort to tackle terrain and obstacles that await you. And so a map is sort of this comfort, right? Of this foundation of like, I kind of know what might be ahead and what to maybe avoid and what routes maybe to go, but I'm not necessarily sure like where I'm going to be taken. But at least there's some map here for me to follow and feel almost like grounded in, and I have some sort of foundation. So I'm not just like totally blown out into the middle of nowhere. I have any idea where I'm going. So before we get into today's episode, we'd love to thank our sponsor, Organifi, who you guys know that we love so much. And they are superfood powdered drinks. And you can take them on the go and be kind of healthy all over the place all the time. And we love this. They have a new product out called Glow.
We are really so excited about this product because I've been looking for a product like this for a while, and it is really hard to find products that have the superfoods that naturally boost the collagen, that are vegan, and that are not from animals. And this is the kind that actually works. So it smoothes fine lines. It's so great for our skin, for any wrinkles, to protect our skin from the sun and any exposure and toxins, which we have a lot of here in LA, and you may have too, depending on where you live. And it also naturally moisturizes the skin. So this is really the epitome of beauty from the inside out and nourishing our body from the inside so that our skin is beautiful and radiant. And all of the ingredients are so potent and organic, and they're all vegan and really beautiful superfoods that we can all benefit from. So it's really easy to take. All you have to do is do a little spoonful in your water or your smoothies. This one is a raspberry lemon flavor. And yeah, it's so good. It tastes so good. It's so good for you. It's so easy. So basically they normally sell out all their new products. So you can actually get on the email list to be on the pre-sale list so that you find out when it actually comes out, but it's on June 14th when you can order it. So now we highly encourage you guys to go over, put in your email, and then you'll be able to order it on the 14th. And you can use our code for a discount.
Yeah, the code is ETG for 20% off. And the link is Organifi.com/glow. And the code again is ETG for 20% off.
We have such a special episode for you all today that was downloaded and delivered and really came from a lot of questions that we've been receiving and some things that we've been experiencing ourselves. And it's really all about spiritual development and all of the phases and stages and everything that you're probably feeling and going through so that you can identify where you're at and all of that. So before we get into the show, we want to remind you to screenshot your favorite part as you're listening and tag us at Elevate the Globe on Instagram. We also have conversations about these podcast episodes in our Facebook group, Elevate the Globe Spiritual Warriors. So join us over there if you're not in already. And if you haven't already, we would so appreciate if you could subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. And when you review it, send us a screenshot to the elevator at elevatetheglobe.com, and we'll send you our magic morning checklist.
So with that, enjoy today's show, and we hope you learn something and are inspired from all of the content we're going to go through, because it's actually pretty epic for us even to know.
Hell
yes. Yeah. So today's episode, you guys, was pretty cool because it was sort of downloaded as Britt and I were sitting down to do another podcast. And instead of podcasting, we ended up in this sort of deep healing talk. And a lot of the healing was kind of I needed from Britt on her end. I was sort of barfing out a lot of things that were kind of going on. And one of the things was kind of just where I was at with my meditation and how I was feeling about my practice. And so we were sitting here like, we got to do this podcast, but I can't get into it. It's not time to do it yet because, we don't like to do things unless we're feeling really aligned. And we were both kind of like not feeling doing any podcasting, but we were sort of coming up and brainstorming with the podcast out of our own personal problems, which is my personal problem, really. And so this is sort of how this was birthed. And we went on a walk and we both wanted to get a vegan cupcake.
And they didn't have them.
They didn't have any. So we were directed back here. And we, you guys may have heard us talking in lobby talk for last week's podcast about this topic. And we were like, we really should just do a podcast about the spiritual stages of development because Britt was saying, I'm interested to know kind of what stage I'm in, being that you're at like year 8 or 9 now with your practice?
Yeah, I need to figure out exactly the date that I started Kundalini, but I graduated teacher training about 7 years ago. Something just popped up on my Facebook that Iris got me a cake. Did I share that on the podcast yet?
No,
I think I shared that
cute.
in Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Iris got me a Sweet Lady Jane cake before I was vegan.
What is a Sweet Lady Jane cake?
Oh, it's like the best cakes ever. I don't know if they probably have vegan now. But Sweet Lady Jane is like one of the best bakeries in West Hollywood. Yeah, it's legit.
I'm such a South Bay bubble.
Yeah.
West Side. I don't know anything about that side over there. This happens in LA.
So yeah, Justin, aka Iris, got me a cake for graduating Kundalini teacher training at Yoga West. And it popped up that was 7 years ago. And that was only like a couple of weeks ago. And so that program was 9 months. And I was definitely practicing for at least a year, maybe a year and a half before I started teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can kind of estimate.
Yeah.
But I would like to find the exact date coming up here. But yeah, we all go through different phases and stages in our spiritual awakening. And for me, when I started Kundalini, that was really the start of my spiritual awakening. So that's my milestone there. And of course, Kundalini takes you on that. And the practice itself really takes you through different stages. But in general, we're all at different places with our life and where we're at spiritually and where we're at with wisdom and ascension and all of that. And so yeah, once you are aware of where you're at and you can learn more about it, then you can understand it and you're able to kind of just be really present with it and then move on to the next stage versus moving all the way back. So we'll talk about that, but that's a choice and an option within the stages that you have.
Yeah. And I was sharing with Britt, that the reason we kind of got onto this topic in a deeper way was that I'm think nearing a little over 4 years now into the process. And about a year ago, you guys, when I got Rex, actually around then is when I started to enter this stage of finding my morning ritual being very challenging for me. I was fighting it and I would sit down and do it. And some days I would do the bare minimum for myself. And some days I'd be able to go deeper. But it was always this sense of frustration, I was hitting a wall with it. And it was I have been feeling where it's this option. There's 3 options. You either continue with where you're at and kind of just mediocre it through. You either stop doing it or you go deeper. And stop doing it isn't an option for me. My brain doesn't want to go there because I know that I don't feel good when I don't do it. And so it's been the mediocre or deeper. And I've been going back and forth between the two. And it's so frustrating to me because I so want to go deeper, but I feel like I've entered this space where I moved out of my heart a lot and I'm in my head. And when you're in your head, you kind of, it's this ego trip, this ego power trip. And it's like, you don't need to do as much minutes. You got to get out of here. You got to go to work. You got to go do all the things. And it wants to take me away. And I'm just like freaking out inside a little bit. Like, what is going on here? And so the commitment is there for me. The discipline is there. However, I'm still kind of like falling off of my commitments in ways that I don't always really love. However, I'm still committed.
Like other commitments in your life.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just like, I'm having a hard time, just a little bit of a hard time with everything, right? Because everything starts in your practice. And if your practice is sort of not going at the depth that you want it to go, everything else in your life starts to falter a little bit. And that's just my experience. Yeah. And so I was like telling Britt, and I had to like it felt like I had to like come clean, if you will, and just talk about it, because I want to go deeper and I want this business to go bigger and wider and be able to hold so much more space and energy. And I have to be able to go deeper to do that. And I'm like, I got to get over this. I feel like I'm hitting this wall. So I'm like, where am I in this stage? As Britt was talking about, like, I wanted to know where I was in the stage. And I'm like, so do I now. And I want to move through this, because to me, that's the only way, is you got to go through these major resistances to things to get out on the other side. If not, it's like, what's the point of doing all this work in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you feel like right now you're at Shaktipad.
Yes.
And that is where it's basically the choice where the practitioner will progress towards mastery, stay at the apprentice levels, or quit the study altogether. Yep. So it's like a crossroads. It feels like, do you want to go to the left, to the forward, or to the right?
Right. And I'm like, I want to go to the left and excel and, and go deep and wide and expansive and feel like everything I do is full of grace. Right. So, but in order to get there, you have to kind of deal with this ego thing.
Yeah. And it's all about the ego.
Yeah. So maybe let's go through the 5 stages and then we can kind of go through a little bit more about them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Okay. So in these 5 stages are based upon the yogic philosophy and Kundalini yoga and the relationship of Kundalini yoga with a person.
Yes. So we're going to go through the 5 stages on the path of wisdom as explained by Yogi Bhajan, and we'll share our experiences as well. And then we're also going to share some stages of ascension that we've gathered. And then the other thing that is really important for us to share is a few of the common, most made mistakes that students encounter when they don't understand the nature of these 5 stages that we're going to go through. So it's 4 fallacies that when you know them, you won't fall into them.
Right.
So we're really excited to dive into this topic and to give you a lot of knowledge and wisdom through these teachings. So we're very excited to share all of this with you. And this is a really important concept to understand. So it's very important and being delivered to us to actually share this information in a 2-part episode. So this is the first time we've ever done a 2-part podcast episode. So it's very exciting. And so you'll be listening to the first part today, which goes through the first through stages, and we're going to really give you a good understanding as to why you should care about this at all and why you need to understand it and why it will really help your entire life. It will help your mindset. It will help your practice. It will help your decisions, all of it. So yes, this is part 1. And before we really get into this entire map that we'll be sharing of these 5 stages, we want to share a really important quote from Yogi Bhajan that describes all of them and the entire cycle of spiritual development.
Yeah, so he said, I'd like to paint before you a picture of spiritual infinity. A person feels pressure from this world and starts running towards spirit. Someone uses himself to introduce you to the path. Then when you come to the path, it is not the person, but it is the discipline which is passed on to you. It is called Sarampad, when you are introduced to the path. So this is the first stage of the path. Then Karampad is the sadhana, which you are to do on that path. So that is the second stage, Sarampad. Then within 4 to 7 years, you enter Shaktipad, where you confront your own ego. It is the last chance in 8.4 million lifetimes where you can escape the cycle of birth and death. Between Shaktipad and Sajayapad, there is no rope, there is no link, it is just a leap. Either you leap forward in faith or you fall down to the base and crash. And when from Shaktipad you enter Sajayapad, you become infinite. That which doesn't change, that's it. There is no he, no she, no it. So
that is Yogi Bhajan in August of 1978. And we truly feel that the key to enhancing every part of this path and to move forward through the stages is having community. So that is why we're so honored and happy that there are people in all of these stages in our community and that we can all lean on each other and help each other to move forward through all of these phases. So that's really where comes in the map of the journey. And there is a map. That's what this is. There is a map that we have.
Yeah, the map. And Yogi Bhajan was talking about really how a map can really give you hope when you seem to be lost, right? So it can give you confidence and comfort to tackle terrain and obstacles that await you. And so a map is sort of this comfort, right? Of this foundation of like, I kind of know what might be ahead and what to maybe avoid and what routes maybe to go, but I'm not necessarily sure like where I'm going to be taken, but at least there's some map here for me to follow and feel almost like grounded in, and I have some sort of foundation. So I'm not just like totally blown out into the middle of nowhere. I have any idea where I'm going, right?
Exactly.
That's what these maps are for.
It's basically like when you use your GPS, right? Or Waze or whatever you use, and you have some sort of destination, some sort of path that you're going on. But you know, that GPS system is not going to tell you that you're going to pull over to go to the bathroom and meet somebody that's going to give you a gift and, you know, whatever it is that happens to you along the way, whatever you encounter, it's not going to tell you that, but it's going to at least give you some sort of guide. So yeah, you know, if you're a more seasoned traveler, then, you know that no matter what it describes, it's not going to actually get into all the dimensions of the actual experience. And the experience is always yours, of course. But this really helps us to just have, like Tara said, like some sort of comfort in knowing like, hey, I know where I'm going and I know that there's going to be ups and downs and it's all going to be taking me forward and it's all going to be taking me higher. And through this transformation that's going to make me happier and healthier and more evolved and more expansive and abundant on the other side. And that's really what keeps us going.
So think about it as if you have an experience with your map, right? Like you can see the rivers and the valleys and the mountains and all the things, but it isn't until when you actually go walk up the hills and when you're like wading in the streams and you're like kind of transversing through mountains and it gets dark and you're like, I don't know where to go, where you really start to build confidence and strength within yourself and you start to really feel deeper feelings and you start to experience things more yourself with the map. So you're having an experience with the map because these maps alone won't give you that. It's your own experience with sort of the guide that creates this beautiful experience and ascension.
Yeah. And, you know, specifically for what we're talking about here with spiritual development and the path of wisdom, it's really all about your mind's stages and how your mind is using the different stages of learning in every phase. So it really helps us with the mindset part of it. And the other big thing for our mindsets to know and to really, truly understand is that it's a process and a map. You know, you're not going to be over on the East Coast on day one if you're starting on the West Coast. It's just not going to happen.
No,
it's just actually impossible. So to know that and to understand and to accept that really helps us to be present in the moment. And, the knowledge that you get is not going to become wisdom in one step, because for knowledge to become wisdom, you need the experience. So you need to go through those things, and those things take time. And it's not going to become this wisdom in a flash. So it's not all or nothing. It's not, black and white. It's this cumulative effort of your practice and moving forward. And when you're going through the stages of mastery, you can't skip one. You have to experience all of them. And I think that's why for Tara and I specifically, we cringe whenever we hear somebody teaching about spiritual bypassing to manifest, because if you skip these stages, then in the end, you're not going to have each one of them mastered. And when you have each one of them mastered, that's when you can actually experience mastery. And that's when you can actually receive the gifts and the lessons from each stage.
Right. And each stage has its own gifts and things for you to learn, so that when you get to that place that you wanted to go spiritually bypassing, you're going to be able to stay there.
Yes.
You're going to be able to stay there, and you're going to be able to enjoy it. And you're going to be able to be it and embody it and live it. And it's what's the fun of cutting out some of the stages?
Exactly.
It's this is where we have to really understand that the path and the journey is the life that we have. And so if we don't really like our lives, that's when we need to actually look at right now, how can we kind of get back into a path that will take us there, and so we can start to enjoy the journey, because our whole life is a journey. Exactly. So it's if you're going to cut around to get somewhere faster, it's you're missing so much beauty. You really are. So, this is a cool thing that we're going to share. And again, like Britt said, we're going to do 2 parts, because in the spiritual world, these sages and saints, really left a lot of scriptures and techniques and sutras and technology for us. And these were all little maps. And this is one of their maps that they left us, the 5 stages the 5 stages on the path of wisdom. So they really left us these 5 stages so that we would understand that things don't just happen overnight, and that there's stages we go through that we transform through, where once we get to a very enlightened stage, we can stay there and be there and have enjoyed ourselves on the way and understood what was going on also along the way. So we're not falling all the way back to square one.
Exactly.
And going I don't know what happened there, but Jesus, it was too much. So I didn't know. I just had to stop.
Yeah. And it definitely happens.
It's going to happen at one stage, probably.
Yeah. And it's about knowing that all stages are beautiful and perfect, and you're in the perfect place in your life. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And it's not about thinking that if you're further along in one of the stages, then that's better or worse or anything. And that's what you actually learn in Shaktipad, where you get out of the ego and get out of the comparison. And, it's just about the truth. When I say, this is how long I've been practicing, it's this is just how long I've been practicing. It's not better than anybody, and some people have been practicing so much longer, and their stages are so beautiful, and it's all perfect. It's all divine timing. So just knowing that is huge. But we want you guys to know that this is yogic philosophy. So this isn't something that just came from the Kundalini tradition. We will speak about it as far as what you can do in each stage to master each stage with the Kundalini practice. But this is just yogic philosophy, the 5 stages of spiritual development that is general across all yogic philosophies. So yeah, we are excited to get into all of them.
Right. So the first stage, let's start there. Right? Okay. So the first stage is called Sarampad. Okay. So this is the honeymoon period, when we're really entering a conscious relationship with our spirit and on our spiritual path. So when you first start to really kind of come into practicing Kundalini yoga, or just kind of come into some spiritual knowledge, going within and really listening to yourself. And it says, we're happy. We're left with pain, that we have left the pain of the past and feel now the freshness of new life on the spiritual path.
So, and this is also the time when you find your spiritual teacher, you find a certain path, and you really start to feel the blessings of the gifts that the spiritual practice and the path gives you. So, honeymoon stage. And, I can vividly remember this time in my life and really how blissful it was. I was letting go of a lot. So it was a little bit difficult, but at the same time, it was much less difficult than it had been for me when I was just holding on to all of the addictions and just living in the pain. And I do remember just feeling so blissful and so excited all the time. Yes. Every mantra I would hear was like orgasmic almost. And I was just so excited to wake up and do my practice and to go to class. I had so many friends that I met all the time, and I loved my teacher. And I remember specifically in one of my classes, it was the first time that I had a real ascension type of experience.
Yeah.
And
what happened? Tell everyone.
Okay. Yeah. I've shared this before, but I don't think here.
No.
And basically it was in a Guru Ram Dass meditation with my teacher, Colin Kim, who I first started teaching and first started practicing with, And, he basically took us through this Guru Ram Dass meditation, and I literally felt myself come outside of my body. I left my body, and I visually saw myself fly up to the moon. It's very interesting that it was the moon looking back in hindsight. And I was holding on to the moon, like picture a big beach ball. And I just had my legs wrapped around it, my arms wrapped around it, and it was spinning round and round. And it was right at like throat or like almost like throat and eye level of Guru Ram Dass. And I saw Guru Ram Dass. His energy was present, and he was sitting in rock pose. And his beard was all the way down, going all the way down his knees, all the way down to his feet. And he was staring at me, and he was watching me spin on the moon, and he was just delivering all of these messages. And it was even more the energy that I felt that he was healing me through. And basically it was just like, I'm here for you. Like, you are held, you are supported. You're supported by the universe, by the moon, by me. You are safe. Like, you're going to be okay. And yeah, it was like the first time that I felt that from something.
Yeah.
From that high of an energy and connected in that way. And it was wild. And literally right after class, I ran up to Colin. I was like, oh my God, Colin, I went outside my body. Like, Guru Ram Dass came to me. This is what he told me. It was so amazing. Like, I was just so freaking excited. You have no idea. I like ran home because I like skipped home because it was right up the street from my house in West Hollywood. And I remember just telling everyone about it. And Colin was making fun of me, and he said I reminded him of Dory in
Finding
Nemo, just when she's like so excited. And
it is cool though.
Right? And yeah, so I just remember that stage for me. And yeah, it was just, really fresh. And it was this whole new life. And my entire life started changing and transforming. Everything started changing. I started feeling so much different and better and so much happier.
Right. So that's this stage. It's like the happiness, the freshness of life, like where you're really appreciating all these spiritual gifts. And so this is the stage that is also called the novice stage, where you're really kind of going in and sort of forging a new path that is really leaving old stuff behind and charting now into unknown territory. But it's like these gifts are delivered to you almost like right away when you're really committed. And you have to learn here in the path of the novice, so the Sarampad, to cultivate obedience, motivation and discipline. So you have to start learning those things on this path. And I think, that's where we definitely see a lot of this in our 528 Academy, where people are really in this stage of learning how to be motivated, create discipline, and really be obedient to themselves and what they want and the goals that they have and the path that they want to go down, and cultivating that. And I think this time is really fun and exciting, and people feel so much and they're opening, and yeah, it can be a little bit frustrating if you are finding it hard to create the discipline and the motivation to be disciplined. But you kind of go through that in this phase too while you're having fun.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So yeah, it's, when you have little or no experience with something, it's like the walk of a new territory, and you have no memories of success or failure to really guide you. So it's just that innocence.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 specific types of motivation that come, and those are necessity, possibility, or destiny. So you hear a lot of times in Kundalini yoga that people find it through like a breakup or through an addiction or through a death or something like that. And that is really a necessity. And I feel like that's where I was really, really strongly. It's like I couldn't go on with the other way that I was living. It wasn't working. And I was just I was literally at rock bottom. And so it was a necessity. Like I absolutely needed something else. There was no other option at that point. So, that could be one of the motivations, or it could be possibility. So you could just be at a place where you're really open to possibilities and there's a lot of possibility available to you, but you're not yet able to tap into it. Or it could just be a destiny thing. So it could just be something that you're destined to experience and the timing is right. And so you were led and guided to, the spiritual path. So
that was kind of my path, and it felt like a destiny path for me, because it also felt a little bit like a necessity in a way, because I couldn't keep doing things the old way, but it was also like so guided to just being in the place that I was when I first found Kundalini in San Francisco at the ashram. I had heard about it from Britt, but it was like, and I kind of knew I wanted to do it, but it was really almost like a destiny thing, because it was very shortly thereafter, about a year later, that, practicing all of the yoga, that I ended up having this major vision with Britt and New York that created all of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's different ways in.
Yeah.
And there's always different ways into everything, right?
Always. Yeah. But it's interesting to just kind of know this and identify it, because there's many different ways. And if you feel like you're being called to the practice, by the way, and you maybe haven't started a spiritual practice, maybe you've been listening to our podcast or other podcasts, but you haven't really started experiencing it in your life, that third style of motivation, that is the destiny, is very intuitive and it's very creative, and it comes regardless if you have pain or pleasure or whatever is happening in your life. It's really more when you just sense a calling. So it's not a desire, but it's like literally a calling of your whole self. And when you act on that calling, that's when you experience destiny. So your destiny. So it's basically like a choice, and you have free will. So, you can choose another way, but with this sort of calling, it feels like you actually don't have another choice.
Yeah, it felt like it had to be there.
Yeah.
Like I knew about it, but it was like the time was right a year later, and I just sort of floated there somehow. Found myself in the class.
So amazing.
And was like, what is this? And I was feeling all these sensations and the pleasures of all of the energy, and was like hooked. And I had to go back every week.
Right?
Every week I went back because it felt so good. And I was like, whoa, this is like mind blowing.
So I feel like for you, it feels a little bit of possibility too.
Possibility. It felt kind of like all of it, honestly.
Yeah.
A little possibility, a little necessity, a little destiny.
Yeah.
All the things. It was completely led, dropped in, and never stopped.
Right?
Never stopped.
And with the possibility side of things, a lot of times it is something that you see in somebody else.
Yes.
So maybe you see like a friend or somebody else who's experiencing a new shift or is enjoying a new way of life. And then you understand, oh, hey, I see that they're doing it, and you understand that that's actually a possibility for you too. Whereas before you maybe didn't understand that that was even out there or an option.
So yeah, the novice, the Sarambhat is a cool stage.
So cool. So, it doesn't really matter how you got there, but basically when you're a beginner and when you're in this first stage, you don't really know what to pay attention to. You have like so many thousands of sensations, and you're just knowing that there's so much possibility out there. So you're kind of not sure where to give your energy, where the priority should be. And so, yeah, your attention is kind of limited, and you're simultaneously kind of trying to figure out all of these unfamiliar things. And your concentration is normally limited because you're not practiced, especially with meditation. So, a lot of experiments have been done with cognitive psychology. And in this phase, you're just limited. Like you just haven't experienced it yet. So a lot of times, you need rules to follow. It's really helpful to have specific instructions that are very direct. And, that's the time that you're really able to soak in a lot of knowledge. And yeah, you really need that good instruction for yourself to be able to experience those special experiences, and for you to start to have those aha moments and those experiences like I had with Guru Ram Das. So yeah, it's kind of normal for you to have the rules, to really be listening and be super guided by a teacher, to just kind of start to pave your own path for yourself.
Right. Because this is where we start to, again, now create with all of these sort of rules and structure. It's where we start to really create motivation, obedience, and discipline here. And we're learning how to really follow, like the whole like thing that the novice really moves through is like, how well can you really follow the guidelines so you can integrate more experience with the yoga, with what you experience of yourself. So it's really a time of like, understanding the foundation.
Yeah. And really just like being there.
And being there and experiencing it. Yeah.
Right? Like if you're prematurely wanting to be somewhere else and you're not like really enthusiastic and just following the formula and seeking to learn the rules yourself and really follow what needs to be done, then you're not going to really experience it in its fullness. So that's really the energy of the novice. So especially for a student of Kundalini, some specific rules and where so many people start out is to do, 3 minutes of breath of fire in the morning, or to do something just for 3 minutes, like even if it's just long, deep breathing. And then to do one kriya or a set exactly how it's given, like the exact sequence and timing. A lot of people start to do cold showers during this stage. So maybe you take a 5-minute cold shower every morning. And this is really the time where you start to become more aware of how you're speaking, how you're interacting. So it's the time where you're starting to stop gossiping and you want to not speak in an unkind way. And you don't really want to have conversations that are negative or low vibrational. So, these are the kind of things that you start to experience. A lot of times people start to do like the mono diets for 3 days, start to do silence experiences. And, eventually it starts to grow and expand. So these kind of rules, or starting somewhere and having some sort of base to start, especially if you're listening and you're brand new, can really help you to get to the next level. And it really develops the patterns and the habits and the behaviors, which really start to bring you to your truth and to yourself. And so when you're able to really have that sort of practice at this stage, then it's really easy to move on to the next stage. So it really just allows you to shift and kind of refine where you're at and then easily move into the next stage, which is the Karampad, the stage of the apprentice.
So we want to briefly interrupt this episode to talk about one of our favorite partners, FabFitFun. So if you haven't heard of it, FabFitFun is a seasonal subscription box with full-size beauty, fitness, fashion, and lifestyle products. And we're excited because the new summer box is out and we cannot wait to get one. And we received the spring box not too long ago and just felt like so much happiness. And there's products are all over my house and I'm using all of them right now. And I love that most of them are vegan and cruelty-free and just really good quality products. So it retails for $49.99, but it always has a value of over $200. So these boxes are literally like a birthday present at your door every quarter. So we would love for you guys to go over and check it out because we know that our whole crew will really love FabFitFun. So you can head over to fabfitfun.com to order your first box. And if you use our code ELEVATOR, you can get $10 off your first box. So again, it's fabfitfun.com and the code is ELEVATOR for $10 off. So the second stage is this Karampad stage. And this is where we're really, like Britt said, this is a stage of the apprentice where we really begin to now work on the personal growth of ourselves. So we're really, becoming aware of any of the issues and the growth that we actually need to develop and to go deep and to really maintain a deep relationship with ourselves, our spirituality. And this is kind of where we kind of dive into a lot of our stuff that we need to transform.
Yes. So a lot of you guys may be feeling this way now. It's really when you're on this spiritual path and you start to be all about the action. So you're able to take maybe a lot of wisdom that you've been receiving from other people or just knowledge that you've been hearing, and you're actually able to start to put it into practice in your own life. So that a lot of times, especially in the Kundalini world, looks like a daily morning practice. It's really where you're starting to experience everything for yourself and where you're starting to redefine yourself, maybe redefine your circumstances, your reality, what your life looks like, what your mindset is, all of it. And you're starting to really develop this new practice and this new alignment with a deeper practice that you can really implement a lot of times every single day.
Yeah. And going back to the quote that Yogi Bhajan that we read at the very beginning of this podcast, where he said, Karampad is where you develop the sadhana. And the sadhana in Kundalini yoga is just the morning time or any time of the day. It's your own personal practice. It's your own personal practice where you spend time with yourself doing the yoga and going to do the deeper work. And it's usually practiced early in the morning. But this is, again, where this practice, this daily practice sort of comes into play in this scenario. So, the Sarampad, you're having fun, you're doing the thing, you're like high on as a kite because you're getting all this energy. And now you enter into Karampad, the second stage, and now you're getting down to work. And this is where you're really now dealing with both good and bad karmas in life. So you're kind of balancing out everything and you're sort of re-energizing and rebalancing and reorganizing your cell structure, your body, your bones, everything. Mm-hmm. Comes in and all of your neuroses start to come up and you got to deal with them. But you're taking action and you're in it and you're doing it every day. You're committed to really changing things during this stage.
Yeah. You're really starting to understand and see the benefits of a consistent and committed practice. And it's really where you start to, increase your awareness and you're able to start to feel and notice a lot more than you probably ever did before. So even after our Joshua Tree retreat, people were saying that colors were brighter and they were able to smell more and their senses were changing. And that's a big kind of thing that's normal to experience during the Quran pod, where you're able to experience heightened senses and you're more aware of multiple senses at one time versus only being able to focus on one. And so, yeah, this is really an essential skill of this awareness through this practice that you gain during this phase specifically. So it's really about kind of, working with mentors or with teachers and really being that apprentice and being in that apprentice energy. And it might look like where you learn a certain meditation and you go deep with it and you're practicing it every day and you have your daily practice and then you're able to kind of start to add from there. Or maybe it's a full Kriya that you're doing, whatever it is. It's like you're basically starting to really learn and experience the growth and experience how things are changing in your perception of the outer world. And then you're studying so much and then you're able to kind of offer that and start to share that.
Right. Like the mudras get more, intricate for you. You can hold your eye gaze down at your nose for longer. You can do breath of fire for 11 minutes because you got it. You start to get a little bit more advanced in your practice and like you got a solid, good foundation. And this is also time when you will likely be attracting teachers and different mentors and groups and things that will help you kind of stretch past your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And really knowing that like, this is why, because you're growing and you're stretching yourself basically, and you're stretching your nervous system. And that's why you kind of come into these groups and you have these teachers that kind of push you and like poke you a little bit. And it's a little uncomfortable, but this is where that growth happens. And then you have your daily practice where you are committed to, taking that action with that growth and doing something about it. And so this is also like where you are going to start to feel like you want to share it with other people, share like what you're going through and like hear what other people are going through with it. And so this is where the community starts to get really important, that, you're doing all this energy work that makes you feel so much and you have all these experiences and you want to share it. So this is that stage too. So this is a fun stage because it's like where you're just kind of getting down to work.
Yes. Yeah. I think like looking back for me, when I was really fully experiencing this was around the time that I did teacher training. Yeah. And yeah, it was cool. I was just gaining so much knowledge and really starting to put it into play. This is around the time where, I did my first I had already done a meditation for 40 days, the addiction one, but this was the first time in Kundalini teacher training that you had to do a full Kriya for 40 days. And it was the Kriya for elevation. And that was one of the ones that I had to start over so many times because I just would miss a day.
Yeah.
And so I was really just kind of increasing my awareness so much. And I was really dedicated to having a daily practice. And I was kind of just, fumbling through it and really, learning so much from everyone around me. And of course, always learning so much from everyone around me. But, the difference is it's like, that's what it was all about during that time in my life. And I think that's kind of how you can identify where you're at. It's like, I was just so deep with, learning and being the apprentice and diving deep with my practice. And
yeah,
it is a fun time. Yeah. But it can be a little bit hard and frustrating too, because it's all so new. And I remember even after teacher training, having trouble talking to people.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. It was like a really big, significant thing. Like I just had a lot of trouble having the same kind of conversations that I used to have with people because my senses were so heightened that if anybody said something that, wasn't aligned with my vibration or that I felt was not true or, I don't know, anything that wasn't really high vibration or was fear-based, all of those things were just like nails on a chalkboard to me. And because it was so new, I didn't know how to navigate it. And I just didn't want to talk to anybody for a while, except for like my Kundalini yoga peeps. Cause it was just all so strong and so new. And I was like, this is too much for me. Like, I couldn't handle it yet.
Yeah. Like a totally like active nervous system.
Yeah.
Like, woo. It just upgraded a lot. I know that was my experience after teacher training too. That is when I did, when I was kind of going through the same stage I did teacher training.
Yeah.
And I remember I would come, we were working together already. And I would come like back, on Monday or whatever to our like weekly meetings. And I would be so sensitive after a weekend of Kundalini yoga. And I was kind of like dealing with some of my own like darkness inside, and it would just be kind of flaring out. And Britt would be like, I think you need to go take a break. She's like, I think you're really sensitive to a lot of things. And I'm like, I know. I gotta go. I need to go into isolation. I know.
It's funny.
Major activation.
Right?
Yeah.
And of course it looks different for everyone, but yeah, it's just, where a lot of growth lies and a lot of things, just kind of come through when you start to go deeper and start to fall away. And
it is kind of this, like, it feels like a big tractor goes in and shovels a bunch of your shit out and drops it out. And you're like, whoa, that feels good. But it felt like, oh my God, the world was going to end because I gotta get all this crap out. But then you also kind of want to get it out.
Yeah.
And like you want to take it to the garbage and you want to like burn it up and get it out of there and move it out of your energy field because you don't want it in there. I spent a lot of time, I had a lot of sadness and loneliness. So I like spent a lot of time purging, like crying and feeling real bad and sad. And then I felt times of like pure joy and like bliss and like I was on top of the world and I was kind of going through all these things. And it was like I was never really going to know what I was going to get with whatever, class I was going through. So, and it's still really fun, right? Like it was still a really fun time. So this is a fun stage because you're developing like a deep commitment is really what it is.
So true.
To yourself.
Yeah. Yogi Bhajan actually has another quote specifically for this second stage. And he said, the yoga sadhana of exercise and meditation needs to be done day after day, under mood after moon, during social situations after situation. So it's like again and again and again. This gives the apprentice the ability to establish a perspective regardless of how the conditions around the practice changes.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's like you're establishing your perspective.
Yeah. Because what it's going to do is like you go through all your normal life, right? And you go through and you start practicing it every day. And after every social situation, after everything that happens, and it's like so consistent that you start to see things you couldn't see before that were happening. And oh my God, there's light bulbs everywhere. And you're going, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was doing that. Or I see this major common thread in all these things that I didn't know.
Yeah.
You start to see all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you start to see like, oh, friendships, maybe we're not really, maybe our contracts are up. Maybe we're just not aligned right now. Or like, oh, this might be a new friend of mine.
Yeah.
That's, really going to bring a lot of healing to me and vice versa. You start to see all these different things and your life starts to change all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where the awareness starts to happen.
It does. And I'm just remembering right now, my mantra during that phase was another Yogi Bhajan quote, which is, we're not here to prove ourselves. We're here to improve. I would tell myself that day in and day out. Like,
oh, I like that.
It was just so helpful for me to understand, like, you're good, Britt. Like, if you're better tomorrow than you were today and you're moving forward and you're continuing to improve, like, you're going to be okay.
Like, you're chill.
Everything's going to be good,
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it's all about. So yeah, I think that it's really fun to talk about. And kind of either reflect back on if you've already gone through that stage or understand what's happening if you're in it right now.
Yeah.
So then next we'll move into the third stage, which is the Shakti pod, the craftsman. Get in crafty.
Yes.
So this is a big one. So this one is said to be the most crucial, transitional, and challenging of all of the stages. So this one is really all about choices that we make and transformation that's happening that really determines whether you as a practitioner will progress towards mastery and really move forward on this path. Or you could stay at the apprentice level or quit the study altogether.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like in The Wizard of Oz, where there's like, you know, all the different ways to go down the yellow brick road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is basically, you know, the craftsman, the practitioner. It's the stage that is the most important of all the stages because it's like the fork in the road. Are you going to go left? Or are you going to go right? Or are you going to, well, I guess it's not really a fork in the road. It's kind of like, are you just going to keep going or are you going to not go? It's kind of what happens here. And this is one of those stages that it's a really important one and one that you can essentially make or break kind of the path that you're on. And it's like, a lot of times it's this energy of disbelief. Is this stuff really actually doing anything? Is it, you know, this belief of like, I just really don't feel inspired to do my practice right now. You know, those are some of the lower sides of it that can come. And it's like, you got to make a choice. Like, are you going to keep going and really become this master of yourself? Or are you just going to let some of these neuroses and, you know, things that are these things in our mind that keep looping and looping, are you going to let them actually take over? And so this is personally where I am. And this is where I've been feeling this a lot personally in my journey that it's the last year, for example, has been really like a struggle for me with my practice. And it feels like I really want to go deeper, but I'm having a hard time taking the action to going deeper. Because you have to allow yourself to really move into it. And, you know, I've been at this level of like the apprentice really kind of just working through a lot of stuff. And I'm like, sometimes I could feel a little tired emotionally, but I'm like, am I really tired emotionally? Or are you just saying that?
Yeah.
You know, and now I feel this pull to go deeper. And this sort of stage I'm in is like, okay, like, I can go deeper or I can just stay where I'm at. And it's not really acceptable for me to stay where I'm at, but to take that action to go deeper, that's where the choice is made.
Yeah.
And I'm just now feeling like I am ready now to take that step and go through the Shakti pod and move on in the path. But I think this is where a lot of times this thing can kind of get people.
Yeah.
It really can.
Well, it's where you confront your ego specifically.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Just break out to the crux of it. I'm like going through it. So I'm like, it's a little hard to talk about.
Yeah. You confront your ego. So, you know, you can either make best friends with your ego and be like, okay, come on, we're going along for the ride together and we're going to work together and we're going to love each other. Or you can get fucking beat down by that ego.
Yeah.
And you can like quit altogether. Or the other part of this can be is that you almost lose yourself because you're so just excited with how far you've come and you're almost like hypnotized by the results and the practice and the tools that you've gained and where you're at. And so you can just be like, okay, I'll just like stay here and kind of this battle with my ego winning a lot and me winning a lot and going back and forth and kind of staying where I'm at because, you know, it's better than where I used to be and whatever. I'll just kind of stay this half apprentice or go back to the apprentice or I'll just quit altogether and I'll be like, you know what? I'm done with this. This is all some big crap and Kundalini sucks. And I'm just,
I don't need this anymore.
yeah, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm going to just, go my own way.
Right. And so
and give up.
Yeah. And Yogi Bhajan said, the practitioner who learns to command commitment, to overcome doubt, and to discern the proper values conquers this stage of learning. And this is all the things that come up. It's the commitment, like my commitment has been wavering and I've had to force myself to commit. It hasn't felt like a want. It's like you got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's also this doubt of oh, well, is it really helping me? It's you kind of waver back and forth. And then it's also this place where you either choose to follow the higher values that you've established by the teachings that you've been studying. So this whole path that you've been studying, or you still sit here and remain with your own limitations and your just desires, and you're never really getting anywhere. So he said there, the practitioner who learns to command commitment, to overcome doubt, and to discern the proper values conquers this stage of learning. So this is what your levels of commitment get a real, and your doubt and your insecurities and your limitations get a real look at in this stage.
Yeah.
And it's one of you're just kind of oh, you got a little eye squint. You're okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through it because I'm bigger than this, and my ego doesn't get to decide that I don't get to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want it to come with me, but it needs to transform into this thing that sits next to me, and we make decisions together, not it's talking to me and telling me what I need to do.
Yeah. I feel like it really is about, it's kind of like the fork in the road with those three choices that we've already talked about. It's kind of that in so many areas of your life.
Yeah.
It's do you go with your personal desires, or do you choose the higher value path? And do you start to really commit to, this higher consciousness and these bigger goals and visions for your life and for your purpose and for, those around you? It's kind of are you wanting to go further and deeper on this path of wisdom, path of ascension, path of higher consciousness, path of practice? Or do you want to just kind of be what? I like how I was before. I have my own little desires that are mine and that I want. And so it's kind of this
These
confusion.
are mine and I want these, so I'm going to stay here.
Yeah. And I feel like you've gotten a little taste of what it feels like. Yeah. And, it feels really good, but then sometimes life can just be really difficult too. I kind of remember when I feel like I was in this phase in a big way is when I, was starting to teach more, and I was really I had completely healed and changed so much. And I was able to heal a lot of relationships, especially with Justin. And then, that was a lot of the time, or around that time, I think was when my mom got sick. And so I started okay, what am I going to do? I started changing a lot of things in my life to be towards my bigger goals and that were kind of aligned with this higher path. But then when my mom passed, I don't know, it's just so much was changing in my life. I feel like I was kind of being beat down by life in a way. And I had a lot of thoughts of giving up, and I had committed to go on Periscope lives every day. I was doing that for 3 months, right around when my mom passed. And then I got pregnant and I got so sick and I was just tired. And I felt what? I've been doing all this work and everything's crumbling around me and I don't have the energy and I don't have my mom and I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yep.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah. And those are the same feelings I've been having recently, but it's there's not an option for me. It's more just this sort of want, little story that's happening, but it feels very real.
Yeah.
But it is very real.
Yeah.
But it's also okay, let's just move through that, right? Because life does get hard, but this is Yogi Bhajan said, this is, this choice is a leap of faith. Are you really going to be, deciding to follow everything that you've learned and really taking this time to step through your fears and like let your heart and all the gifts that you have lead.
Yeah.
And this is that time. And it's very interesting. I was wondering kind of when you went through yours, because I was asking you like, have you gone through this? Like, did you go through this?
Yeah.
Because it's feeling real.
Right. And I think like the gifts of the Shakti pod is when you surrender.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to give up. That isn't an option for me. I don't want to do that. And then you like understand that you're not going to give up, basically. Yeah. And then you stay on this higher path and this goal, and you basically emerge out of that with so much more strength and so empowered. And it's almost like you're put on this path of like an unshakable new direction that has momentum and that you can then move forward with. Yep. But it's about, that's like the gift of the Shakti pod on the other side before going into the Sajay pod.
Yeah. It's like accepting your power and know that your gifts are here for you to serve with and lead with and just fucking go.
Yeah.
And get on the other side of it.
Yep.
And honestly, it's taken me a year leading up to, like, it's been like a year, almost a year. It's been like 10 months. And I'm like, oh, I'm so done with this, like feeling like my practice is like a chore. And I pretty much allow myself to not fully go as deep as I want because I'm like, this just is like, not the most fun thing, but I keep doing it. And now I'm starting to feel it finally shift because I'm talking about it, which is really cool. I'm talking about it. Like the moment I finally like admitted it and like told Britt that I was having a really hard time because I was like ashamed that I was kind of not feeling great about it. And I'm like, God, but I was like, I'm not having a good time. Like this has to change because I can't keep going like this. Something has to change. Like I have to get through this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just being able to talk about it, I've like gone through it. Like I feel like I'm getting on the other side.
See?
And that has been such a relief. And it's still shedding. Like I'm still going through the tunnel. But I'm going on the other side of it because, I don't accept that I've gone this far and learned all these things that I truly believe in and I've experienced all these things, and to not keep going with it and see where else it can take me. It's like, that's just not acceptable to me.
No.
To me personally, from my own soul, it's like, there's so many more gifts to be shared and serve with. And I just need to go through it and do it and like be nice to myself about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like be honest. Like I'm not feeling it right now, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm getting through it.
Exactly.
So if anyone else is out there feeling that same thing, it's like we're just all getting through it together. But it's also a really beautiful time.
It is. Yeah.
Because you're like, whoa.
And I think
I created something to actually like question here. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's a big reason why we're really called to do this podcast in the first place is because we know that so many of you guys are probably feeling things, so many of you at each of these different stages. But if you are not aware of what's happening, then it can be really lonely. Like, if you're feeling all of these things, especially with the Shakti pod, like doubting your spiritual path, feeling that you may have outgrown the teachings, maybe you feel like you're better than everyone, or whatever it is, withdrawn from other people, you can feel like you don't know the way out. But if you know that on the other side, if you don't fall away from your spiritual practice, if you don't give up, if you don't stay as the apprentice, then that's where you really gain your power from the discipline. And that's like what it is. It's about learning that discipline. And you find that power through like deeper spiritual, intuitive awareness. Yes. And you start to really have control over your subconscious mind, and you start to have a stronger sense of yourself. You really start to, understand that there's like glitter on the other side.
Yes.
And you can really get out of like getting caught up in how important you think you are and not being able to see beyond your limited self. And it's really all about just
Stop arguing with your ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like moving through that, understanding what's happening, and then receiving the gifts on the other side of that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where you cultivate a lot more freedom.
Yes.
A lot more freedom is cultivated here through the discipline because you're clearing so much of the energy field and you're clearing up a lot of fight that you have within your own self and a lot of the batterment that we do with our ego to ourselves. So it's a lot of lifting that energy, and that's freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what freedom is, the ability to choose whatever thought and direction you want to go in fully.
Yes.
That's all freedom is. It's you have all your energy backing everything that you want to do, and that's freedom. Everything backs you, everything's supporting you because you've decided, and you have no stories that contradict that create problems for you. And that's what freedom is. Freedom's not just like, oh, I'm just free and I can travel the world and do all these things. It's like, that's a physical manifestation of freedom, but actual freedom is freedom from your own, mind chatter and clutter that brings it down and that contradicts where you want to go.
Yeah.
So
true.
This is where that stage, this is a very important stage.
It's a very big one.
Yeah.
So,
and I think some people can move through it faster than others.
oh yeah.
It's taken me a while.
Yeah, I feel like all of these stages, it's like there's no specific time limit on any of them. They're all just, what is your path? And if we trust in our path and trust the timing of our path, then we just trust that it's always perfect, whatever the timing is for you,
Yeah.
And so kind of with going through this Shakti pod comes responsibility. So your training wheels are off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you now in this stage really must trust in the teachings and follow through on them. And it's really all about applying them in all areas of your life and where you remain committed and really have that faith in the bigger picture. And that could mean the bigger picture of your life purpose. It could mean starting to be in touch with the bigger purpose of why we're all here on the planet and really contributing good energy to that. It could be just with your practice alone, in your relationships, in a certain aspect of your life, like your career or your business or whatever it is. But it's kind of like, okay, we're doing this. Like, all parts of me, the ego, all of the 10 bodies, mind, body, soul, we're all on board. We've made a decision. We're not going back. We're not staying here. So the only way to go is forward. Like the grasshopper. Did you know?
They can't go backwards?
No, the grasshopper cannot hop sideways or backwards. It can only hop forward or stay sitting. But the only way that it can hop is forward.
Can it turn left?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Can it hop diagonal? Like, how does it turn around?
It can only go forward.
Oh my God, I can't.
I mean, I think if it's...
What? My mind is a little like,
you know
it's a
how
good
I
concept.
learned that?
How?
Because the day my mom passed away, there was a huge, massive grasshopper in the window, massive, staring at us. And it did not leave that branch all day, literally. And it was staring at us in the window. And so I looked it up, and it was a message from my mom. And it was a message in general that the only choice you have here is to hop forward.
Your mom would say that too. Hop forward, Britt. Keep going.
And to me, that's what Shaktipat is. It's like, all right, guys, there's no turning back.
Yeah. There's
You're
no
a
turning
grasshopper now.
Yeah. I'm going to go home and tell myself that. You're a grasshopper now, Tara.
You've reincarnated from a bee to a grasshopper.
Oh my gosh, the bees. You guys, we'll have to talk about my bee stuff later. But the bee came over to me today, by the way, Britt, on my walk. And it was buzzing and I just said, no bee, no. And it went away. I didn't get freaked out. I didn't get scared. I just said, no bee, no. There's a lot with the bees, guys. We'll do this another podcast on my whole bee thing.
So yeah, the bees are a lesson.
A big lesson for me.
For Tara.
Yeah. They're beautiful,
Yeah.
but also they scare me a bit because they're very powerful.
Yeah. So they are. So we're all grasshoppers now, right? On this podcast journey that we're going on here.
Yeah.
Describing all of these stages. And Yogi Bhajan actually
Be a
gave...
grasshopper.
Right? Yogi Bhajan actually gave a meditation to help get past the Shakti pod. And it's called the Complete Audio Mantra for Individual Meditation. So it's where your hands are in Gyan Mudra with the thumb and index finger touching. The sides of the left and right hands are touching. The elbows are at the rib cage and the palms are around the heart center and facing towards the head. And you just chant the Adi Mantra 3 to 5 times per breath. The Om Namo Guru Dev Namo
is the Adi Mantra.
Guru Dev Namo Guru Deva. Yeah. So you do that for 11 to 31 minutes. That's something specifically that Yogi Bhajan gave to get through the Shakti pod. And I think we should record that in 528 Academy.
See, and when you even said that, my mind kind of only listened to part of it. I'm like, my subconscious is still kind of messing with me here. So we're going to have to write that down in the show notes for all of our friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will.
And then, I think we should.
Right?
We should, because it's going to, you guys are really, a lot of you are practicing Kundalini and you're doing the thing, and some of you are new and some of you are been practicing for a couple of years, and you may be, almost entering the Shakti pod, and it's important to know what it is, because it does give you structure. It's like, again, it's this map. It's like to know that this is happening for a reason and you can move through it, and that it's happened to thousands of people that have come before you.
Yes, exactly. And you can gain strength from that and know that this is one of the most important stages. It's such a fork in the road for your whole, incarnation here. Yeah. So it's like, just do it. Just do it. Like, it's so worth it, because if not, you're just going to stay where you're at, or you're going to move backwards. And then in that, energy, you're going to have to keep relearning the lessons over and over and over and over again. And, I saw my uncle do that, honestly.
Yeah.
My uncle got really deep into spirituality, and he did a lot of teachings, and he shared so much with me, and he was so knowledgeable, and he had to practice, but it was just too much for him. And he went back, and I saw what the rest of his life looked like. It was like lesson after lesson after harder lesson after harder lesson after harder lesson. And it was, difficult. It was really a difficult path. And, we all have our different paths, and that's okay. His soul will learn it in another way. But if you're aware and you're listening, and you know that you have a choice and you have support around it, like we're here to support you. You have a whole community that can support you. You have resources and tools like this meditation to support you. You can call on Yogi Bhajan, on higher consciousness, on the golden chain of teachers, on, whatever you're connecting deeply with, the energy of love. And you can use that to get you through this, to then receive the gifts and be able to go higher on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we want for all of you.
We do. Yeah. So those are the 3 that we're going to go through on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then stay tuned next week, because we're going to go through the last 2 and then the fallacies on the path as well. So we want to complete all of these 5 stages, but, want you to be able to digest a few at a time.
Yes.
So there's a lot that we can talk about for each one.
Yeah.
So
I feel like this is like when on The Bachelor, they don't let you watch the final rose ceremony, and they're like, next week on The Bachelor, you can see who they chose.
Oh, God.
So we're giving you guys a little...
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, so stay tuned, and yeah.
We'll go into more of it. And, we also feel like it's really good for you guys to integrate everything we said here today, and integrate it, feel it, start to understand where you're at if you identify with any of these stages that we talked about, and start to really understand where you're at, how it's playing out in your life, where you are, where you want to go, and, what you want to do with this information, with this knowledge.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And just kind of plan. Like these are things that are going to pop up and this is where I might be. And it may be a while, but if I start to feel any sort of doubts coming in, well, I might be hitting that next stage. And that's exciting because that means I'm progressing through this map of development. So, all of this is really exciting. But like Britt said, like it's a very important thing for us, one, to listen to information, but to experience it and integrate.
Yes.
Like we have to start really integrating all the things that we're learning in our physical bodies and in our energetic fields, or what the fuck are we doing?
What are you doing?
Because you're not going to be able to hold all of this stuff and you're really not going to be able to implement any of it. And so it's very important. This whole theme right now for us really is like integrate all the things that you're learning.
Integrate it into your subconscious.
That's a little jingle that just came out of Britt. So we'll leave you with that.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to see you guys in a week. And
yes.
We love ya.
And before we go, we're so excited to leave you guys with one of our favorite brands that we've talked about a lot, who is one of our podcast partners that allows this amazing podcast to flourish and continue. And this is Elate Cosmetics, Elate Beauty. It's all about this beautiful conscious makeup.
We love it
so much. It's so beautiful. It is all sustainable in bamboo packaging, all non-toxic and vegan. And, with all of this talk about spiritual development and consciousness, it's so important for us to surround ourselves with things that are actually promoting our spiritual development and growth and health and feeling really good. And that's really what Elate does for us. We know that we can trust the ingredients, that it's not harming our health, that it's actually making us feel beautiful. We're contributing to, positive sustainability for the planet. And so that's what Elate Cosmetics is all about. And we know so many of you guys have been switching over to non-toxic, vegan, sustainable beauty. And so we highly recommend Elate Cosmetics. They have so many amazing lipsticks, bronzers, everything you need for your makeup needs, Elate has. So we definitely want you guys to check out elatebeauty.com and use our code ELEVATE15 to get 15% off anything and everything on their site. So again, that's elatebeauty.com using the code ELEVATE15 for 15% off. And that is our gift to you. And we love you. We love you so much. So definitely check them out and let us know what you think.
And with that, may
the pure light within you guide your way on. Sat Nam.
Sat Nam.